70 million Americans are sleep deprived, so you're probably one of them. Yet sleep is just such a critical factor in maintaining health. We need to consistently get 7 to 8 hours per night to protect our metabolic health, our heart, immune system, and to turn on the glymphatic detox system, which is our brain's ability to clear out neurotoxins as we sleep. It takes at least 7 hours for that to turn on. But there are so many things that keep us from getting a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Technology, shift work, traveling across time zones, sleep apnea, and blood sugar imbalances, including diabetes. So I'm going to cover some diet, lifestyle, and lab testing options that I use to monitor and support sleep and stable blood sugar. First of all, there's several hormones that are influenced by sleep and circadian rhythm. Those include growth hormone, melatonin, cortisol, leptin, and ghrelin. Poor sleep quality is linked with so many things: diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease. So it's a long-term thing, but it also has short-term effects with just one night. Insufficient sleep can lead to markers of prediabetes like blood sugar spikes overnight and after meals, insulin resistance, which is our fat storage hormone, and then having unhealthy food cravings the next day. Feeling hungrier for processed foods and sweets the next day is a result of an altered hormone called ghrelin, leptin, and cortisol after one bad night's sleep. Cortisol is typically the highest when you first wake up in the morning in order to get you out of bed, and then it slowly drops over the course of the day, with the lowest point being at bedtime. But I often hear people complaining about feeling tired but wired overnight or as they're getting ready for bed, and that's a classic sign of adrenal dysfunction. It's really common. Adrenal issues can make it feel like a major feat to get out of bed in the morning, but then also make it difficult to fall asleep when you finally have a chance to lay down at night. Getting a poor night's sleep can also drive up cortisol and adrenal dysfunction. So sleep, blood sugar, and cortisol are sort of this, each of the other two disrupts the others. So addressing all three is key to getting them back into balance. Not getting enough sleep has been shown to worsen those who already have diabetes, but it's not just people with diabetes. Those without diabetes are affected as well. The impact of sleep may result from blood sugar fluctuations during the night, restless leg syndrome, and sleep-disordered breathing, such as apnea, are all really strong connections to look into. In my clinical practice, I've observed that blood sugar fluctuations are a really common cause of waking up frequently during the night, especially in that 3 to 4 a.m. hour. And so I like to test fasting glucose and insulin, and then we're able to use those two scores to calculate an insulin sensitivity score. It's called the HOMA-IR score. Other tests you can look into include an oral glucose tolerance test, C-peptide, which is released at the same time as insulin, so it's a surrogate marker for insulin, hemoglobin A1C, glycomark, and that's a marker of postprandial glucose, which means after a meal, and it's a good marker for about 2 weeks prior to the test. And then you can also use a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, to look at how certain foods specifically impact you, or how a poor night's sleep, a fight with your spouse, or stress, things like that can influence blood sugar levels. Really just looking at trends. And a lot of women over 40, especially those with autoimmunity, start to lose insulin sensitivity. So blood sugar and sleep are extremely important considerations that we just have to look at. How do we break out of this cycle? It's so important for our health and how we feel, our weight. Getting physical activity, reducing inflammation, and following good sleep hygiene habits are priority 1, 2, and 3 in no particular order. Any type of exercise is beneficial because it pulls the glucose out of the bloodstream and it puts it to work in your muscles rather than staying high and causing oxidative damage. Another great way to reduce inflammation is to eat a wide array of anti-inflammatory plant foods. So try to hit every single color of the rainbow. Aim for 30 to 50 different veggies, herbs, spices, low glycemic fruits, nuts, and seeds every week. Each brightly pigmented plant color contains different combinations of anti-inflammatory phytonutrients. So really start to branch out there and try to eat the rainbow and rotate the foods that you're eating. Good sleep hygiene also includes limiting caffeine, alcohol, stop eating a couple hours before bed, and then keep a consistent routine even on the weekends. I know that can be hard to do, but then when you get out of bed, instead of looking at your phone first, try to get some natural light on your eyes. That will reset your circadian rhythm. And then dim the lights and the temperature, reduce screen time in the evening. All of these things help your body to naturally release melatonin. A warm Epsom salt bath with a few drops of lavender oil is a great routine to help lower cortisol. And then the magnesium actually gets absorbed through your skin. So it's really relaxing and it supports healthy blood sugar, even those that cause stomach upset with magnesium. A 2022 study I just looked at was looking at over 1,100 adults with healthy blood sugar and whether poor sleep duration or sleep timing had any impact on postprandial glucose response to breakfast the next day after one bad night's sleep. And there was a statistically significant relationship between total sleep and meal type. So the high carb and high fat breakfast the next morning led to a really large glucose spike the morning after one night of insufficient sleep. But when you go to sleep matters too. A later sleep midpoint based on hours as a standard deviation from midnight was also associated with poor glycemic control after eating that same high carb, high fat breakfast. The study really just highlighted to me the importance of sleep as a lifestyle intervention for metabolic health and for diabetes prevention. So try to get good night's sleeps, try to stay consistent, and try to shift it an hour up if you're a late nighter. If you suspect blood sugar fluctuations, ask your practitioner to run lab work to assess your blood sugar. You can also focus on consuming a low glycemic diet that prioritizes protein, veggies, and a moderate amount of healthy fat with each meal, and then minimize processed foods and sugars. Another great thing, as I mentioned, is just taking a walk or just doing a couple minutes of activity after meals to blunt blood sugar spikes after eating, and then implementing a stress management practice, whatever works for you. Yoga, meditation, deep belly breathing. These can all help to reset our parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system, in addition to reducing that stress hormone cortisol. For someone with insulin resistance, you'd want to eat within 1 hour of waking and then every 3 to 4 hours thereafter. That's really important for keeping your blood sugar stable and in this really tight, narrow range throughout the day and overnight, because that's priority number one for our bodies. If it's fluctuating high and then dropping low, we're not putting our healing energy towards other areas and rebalancing other areas. So feel free to reach out if you have questions, if you need help getting those lab tests ordered. I'm always here to help out and to answer questions.